doesn't really need an introduction, does it? It's the Tesla Model 3. You've probably already seen all of the videos on the internet of the Model 3 with its autopilot modes, that clickbaity new summon feature, and all of the drag races which will put a cheap car like this up against something like a Ferrari. So today, as a breath of fresh air, this is the cheapest Tesla money can buy. It's black on black with aero wheels without any of the autopilot upgrades, all of which as a package will set you back just $74,500. Because $74,500 for an entry-level car without features is a lot of money. Today's plan then is really just a wholehearted, good old-fashioned car review to see if this $74,000 Tesla is a car you should actually buy. We do have a fairly thorough day planned. We're starting here in the middle of the city. We're driving all the way to this wind farm at the tail end of Victoria, try and get some great shots of the car. The first impressions are, as we pull onto the first freeway of the day, the interior of the car doesn't feel like a $74,500 car. Certainly if you get into a top-end Mercedes A-Class, you feel like you're driving something that brings a sense of occasion, but this is pretty empty. The screen is quite impressive. I love the landscape layout, and I get that there's a simplicity to this Scandinavian-style wooden dashboard, but the steering wheel has always felt like something that's ripped from a prototype, something that's unfinished and undesigned, with these little ball bearings that will roll up and down to adjust your controls, a little bit like one of those old school computer mouses. But of course, this car has never been about interior design. What matters is the software, in particular this. If I pull the stalk on the right down twice, I've now enabled Autopilot/Auto Steer. And the Tesla is accelerating, braking, steering, and really doing 95% of the work involved in driving itself in a freeway environment. What this car won't do without the full $8,500 autopilot upgrade is change lanes, get on and off freeway exits, park itself, and summon itself in car parks. Now that inability to park itself has been a bit of an inconvenience, but for the price tag, the ability that this car has to drive itself on a freeway is extraordinary. If you've watched the video I did recently with the BMW M8, that's a $300,000 car with self-guided cruise control. This base model puts that BMW to shame. Tesla is in an entirely different league on self-driving. A new feature in the software version 10 is that you can now tap out and navigate on the screen to see what kind of cars are around you. You get the impression that this car can see and is thinking about things that will never even cross my mind, even cars that are obstructed by the traffic and the view ahead. One thing that does already stand out is the sheer amount of road and tyre noise throughout the vehicle. It's a bit of a catch-22 with an electric car because there's no engine note. The sound deadening in the cabin has a much higher bar to set, and it does feel a bit noisy, particularly for a car that isn't meant to be making any noise. What's also quite interesting about the car without the full autopilot upgrades is that on the car's Netflix and the Spotify accounts, you have to log in with your own username and password, whereas the upgraded car will come with all of that logged in for you. In a way, it feels like I'm driving last year's iPhone, the car that has all the same hardware as the new ones, but a few features switched off with older gen software. It's not necessarily a criticism because you're not paying for the full one, but this is more the iPhone 11 in a world of iPhone Pros. We will now stop just to get a bit of lunch because I'm very hungry. But first, performance. 0 to 100 comes in 5.4 seconds. Which is still no real slouch. You're not going to impress your friends with the car's performance, but it's very usable, particularly because it's immediate. as soon as you accelerate, the car will pull out of a junction. So this is one of the easiest cars to navigate, because the moment you want to pull out of a little side junction or navigate on a freeway, the car will just go. There, it wouldn't be a YouTube video without a McDonald's drive-through. I wonder if the car can do autopilot through the drive-through.
How can I see?
Can I get a medium quarter pounder meal? And can I get a Happy Meal? The Happy Meal's for me. No, it won't do it. There you go, internet. A Tesla cannot drive itself through McDonald's drive-through.
Quarter pounder and Happy Meal.
Thank you. The Happy Meal's for him. Even in its base trim, the Model 3 is still quite a pretty car here in this stealthy black with the black aero wheels. Getting in and out of the car is all possible because of this key. You don't get a conventional key with lock and unlock buttons. Instead, it's more of a credit card that you can put in your pocket. And to lock and unlock the car, all you need to do is hover your wallet over the side pillar of the car there, which locks and unlocks the car. In reality though, you don't need this key at all, because as soon as you pair the car to your mobile phone, this acts as the key through its Bluetooth and proximity sensors. So all you really need to do is walk up to the car and unlock it. One thing I will say, and I am being a bit nitpicky, but these door handles are the wrong way around. It's so much more natural to press on the right and open the left, but I have to kind of dislocate my arm every time I want to get in and out of the car. The boots. Because you don't have that easy tactile button on a remote control, opening the frunk is actually a little bit annoying. You need to get your phone out or press it on the screens using the Tesla app to open the front boot. And you're presented at the front with a reasonable amount of storage space, but one that's pretty sparse. You wouldn't want to put anything valuable or too nice in there because it's not even carpeted. But thankfully, the space at the back is really excellent. Now, excuse all the camera gear we've got, but that's enough room for 3 golden retrievers. That's the benefit of this skateboard style platform. You can have a boot front and back with no issues at all. Inside the car, still don't like that. The cabin is still an acquired taste. It's a bit overtly simple, but what is lovely is the amount of air and light within the cabin, and it does feel like a great space to spend a long period of time. So let's get back on the road and go see some wind farms. So I've just gotten back in the car to get back on the road, and I don't really want to focus too much on this, but at the moment I can't avoid it. My entire screen and heads-up unit has now switched off. At the moment I have no maps, I have no battery display to see how much more range I've got, and I have no speed because all of my instrument panel is here on the screen. So not what I wanted to focus on, not what I wanted to talk about today, but when you are so heavily dependent on a car that is driven by software, if a bug does creep into the system, you are completely in the hands of the software. Let's pull over up here and see if we can get things back up and running. My Model 3 screen just went off and now I can't see where the f*** I'm going. To hold both buttons down on the steering, this is a bit like having to reset an iPhone X where you've got to press a bunch of different controls. There we go. Okay, it seems all back to normal, but that's just a thing that happened that is probably going to stay in the video. Back on the road now with all of the systems up and running, we can talk a little more about some of the boring practicality sides of the Model 3. Ergonomically, the Model 3 is a big step forward from cars like the Model S. If anyone watched my Model S video, you'll know that I was so frustrated by not having little niceties in the cabin, like places to put my sunglasses or my mobile phone. Well, in the Model 3, what an innovation! I've got a little cubby holder for my sunglasses and a little storage cabin for my mobile phone. So already, this is a great tick up on livability over a car like the Model S. The interior, though sparse, is very light and very airy. I've got this wonderful sunroof and I've got this panoramic rear window at the back that fills the cabin with light. But what is quite unusual is that I am struggling a little bit to see out the back of the car. It's as though the rear tailgate is set quite high up, and having that panoramic window with the tinting that fades down leaves me with a very narrow viewpoint to see what's behind me. Now, all of this is very impressive, but there is one thing that I've just been struggling to put my finger on, and I think it's because whilst this is a very capable car, I mean, it's literally driving itself most of the time, it feels like a very sanitized device. It's not a car that I'm lusting over, and it's not a car that I really want to own. That might be a moot point, maybe I'm not the only one who thinks that, but it feels to me a lot like buying the newest iPhone. The iPhone will do everything, it is the best phone in the world, and you can all argue about that in the comments below, but I'm happy to swap my iPhone out for the newest version next year and trade phones annually without remembering about the phone I used to own. Cars to me aren't really like that. If I own a car, I want to love it for a long time, and you have to pry it out of my hands to get rid of it. This feels so much like a device. I'm struggling to form that connection with it that makes me fall in love. It's weird, but this is the car that everyone else should buy, but it isn't really the car that I'm going to buy. Let's stew on that for a moment, because if you want to have a little look up here, we've now got the first of many windmills. That I found so interesting in getting to drive quite a lot of low-priced electric cars like the Nissan Leaf, for example, is that they tend to feel like very expensive versions of a cheap car. What the Tesla Model 3 does differently is that this feels like a very cheap version of an expensive car. The software, the Autopilot technology that helps the car drive itself, the quality, the tactility, even the way it integrates with your phone shares so much in common with the more expensive Model S and Model X that this feels, even in its base trim, worth every dollar of its $74,000 price tag. I'd even go as far as saying that the Tesla Model 3 is the best car in the world right now. It's the car that I'm going to recommend, and it's the car that you should buy. But it's not the car that I want to own. Whilst it's very competent and very capable, it lacks that X factor, that soul that I'm yet to see in the world of electric cars. So whilst I do love the Tesla, I love it in the same way that I love my iPhone. And when I'm looking to spend that much money on a car, I still think I'm going to look elsewhere.